Hello and welcome to another episode of Visceral Musings. My name is Cody Reed, and it is Wednesday. That means it is time for Season 2, Episode 8 of my silly little show, and today, my guest is the host of the podcast, A Dirtbag's Guide to Life on the Road. He's also a singer-songwriter with a collection of music that spans over a decade, and most of all, he's a cowboy. But he ain't no redneck. His name is Charles Ellsworth, and today we talked about his early formative years as a musician. We talked about his time with a band called Alaska and Me, and I even taught him how to serve a little cunt. We're really groundbreaking stuff that we're doing over here. But more so than all of that, we talked about Johnny Cash's Unearthed and the impact, the lasting impact that it has had on him as a songwriter or as just a listener of somebody who likes to tell stories. And boy, does this guy have plenty of stories for us. So stick around, let's boogie. Hello and welcome to another episode of Visceral Musings. My guest today is a cowboy who loves reproductive rights. Who would have thunk? You know him from his podcast, A Dirtbag's Guide to Life on the Road, his YouTube video series, How Not to Make a Rock Doc, and most importantly, his music with a back catalog that spans over a decade. He's the other C word, none other than my friend, Charles Ellsworth. Charles, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. I was working fucking 8 days straight, and today was my first day off, so a lot of what we're doing today is shit that I wrote either last night or today. So I'm really stoked about it. I just did I did a couple of these episodes solo. I did three back-to-back solo episodes, and it's so much better to be talking to somebody else than just talking to myself.
Yeah, how do you plan a solo episode? Because I've never done one of those. So that seems like, do you just like talk and talk and talk and then edit it? Or do you like write it first? Or
I tend to write it out first. The most recent one, I'll be real, like, because this episode comes out next week, but the most recent one was like, when I was done with it, I was so not happy with it because like my schedule was so tight. And like you know that you have to stay on those, like you stay on you don't miss an upload because whatever. So sometimes
unless you're me and you take over a year hiatus on your podcast.
Unless you take a beat, but I usually write them out, but I try to write stuff out or have talking points lined up so that I'm not just like fucking not making any sense. So, but it's so much less natural to sit and talk by myself than it is to have somebody, and there's no visual aspect to it. So, like, yeah, I don't know. My first question that I like to ask every single guest that I have on the show is, who are you and what do you do?
I am Charles Ellsworth, and I'm a songwriter and podcaster and I guess YouTuber. I like to make things, but mostly I'm a songwriter.
Okay. It's funny because we actually just talked about this on your podcast, how you kind of like suffered from imposter syndrome on like just outright saying like I'm a musician. My name is Charles and I'm a musician.
Yeah.
But I would agree. I think you are a songwriter. You were featured in like a magazine, right? Like American Songwriter.
Yeah, they said a couple things. It wasn't like a cover story or anything. But
no, that's still fucking something though, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to be too modest, but yeah, it was really cool. But
I'm trying to make it seem like I have a hit. I wanted to do an episode with somebody who is like more. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, they don't do music, or like they're not as established as you are, or at least like is more self-realized in like that their art form. So it is really cool to have somebody. You have like I'm excited to talk to you because I feel like you have plenty of stories that we can pull from.
Yeah, I've got too many stories.
Well, first off,
everybody's like, dude, Chuck, stop telling us fucking stories. I don't want to hear it. Could we just hang out and have a beer and talk about the now instead of your glory days?
Well, let's get to know you a little bit. So when you pee, do you are you a unbutton, unzip, and flop over the waistband type of guy, or do you go through the window of the underwear?
Over the waistband for sure.
Okay, that means so on the show we like to do a thing that's called Flop Gang or Window Squad. So you would be another member, coveted title of Flop Gang. So you are Flop Gang, not Window Squad.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people.
Not Window Squad.
I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about that. So can you give?
Sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. Speaking of the glory days, and so there are some people from our hometown or home, whatever you want to call it, area, the White Mountains of Arizona. They would be probably absolutely livid if I didn't at least touch on this a little bit. So can you give me a brief description of your time with a band called Alaska and Me, and as well as like the impact that it had on like your music career that followed it?
Yeah, that could, sorry, there's a lot to be said about that. Alaska and Me was a project that my friends Tyler Cox and Ben Turner from, they went to Sholo High School. I went to Blue Ridge, and they had started this kind of side project because they were both in a band with my buddy Riley and Dylan called Frames in Vain. And they had started this kind of acoustic side project when we were all in like screamo hardcore bands in high school. And when those heavier bands broke up, Ben and Tyler wanted to put a rhythm section to this project they had started called Alaska and Me. And so they got Ian Dupierre to play drums and me to play bass because we had both been in another band called Led by the Flame. And so that started when I was like a senior in high school, I want to say. And we played together for a few years. I left for college the next year, but then after being away for that year, they had played that year with other bassists. And then, they were like, we're going to make a record this summer. We'd love for you to play on the record and come back and play shows with us during the summer. So I did. And then Ian ended up moving to Salt Lake with me. And I don't know if this is too in-depth, but then we kind of spent the next year, my sophomore year of college, kind of separate. Tyler and Ben were in Colorado, and Ian and I were in Utah, and we would just like travel together and play shows in Utah, Colorado, and Arizona. And then after a year of that nonsense where we were just spending what little money we made on gas to get to these different places, we all decided to move back to the White Mountains and start touring and like really trying to like go for it. So we started writing this record called I Will Die in the West, and we made that record in 2008 with Bob Hogue in Mesa, Arizona. And we started touring a bunch, and I did online classes, but I mostly failed them. And and we just started touring as much as we could, and we would practice like 6 days a week, and it was wild. It was cool. It was really fun, and it was a really formative experience for me. And it was my first time going on tour, was with that band, and I really just fell in love with that lifestyle. And like after that band broke up, it was kind of a really devastating thing to go through at a young age. In a way, it felt kind of like a divorce for a young person. I think I was 21 when it happened, and
it would be kind of fitting though, because like we're all from like the Mormon area of Arizona, that you have multiple spouses. So yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, my last name is Ellsworth, and
sister husbands,
like sister very husbands. Mormon, sister wives, sister. Yeah. They've.
What have you?
That definitely
brother
happened
husbands
at some point. Yeah, at some point in my past.
Yeah, you guys were all brother husbands, all married to the Rock.
Yeah, we were married to the Gray Goose, which was our van. My grandpa's 1994 Dodge Ram van that he sold us.
Wow.
Yeah, and but that was kind of after that band broke up, there was a huge void in my life. I thought that I was kind of done with like really pursuing music after that. I thought it was my one shot at really going for it. And, after it broke up, I kind of realized I had to keep making music, and that's what I really wanted to do. So that's what I did. And here we are. It was also like, the way the band didn't break up on the best of terms, and I was really pissed off about it. And so I like to joke that my entire solo music career was born out of spite. Yes. To be like, fuck you, I can write songs and do this on my own. I don't need all y'all to do this.
Yeah, it's hate fueled, but it worked out for you, it looks like.
Yeah, and it's, nothing but love for most of those guys now. So
yeah, except for Ian. Fuck Ian. And Ben. No, those are still my. Then I ended up being in a band with Ian many years later called Phil the Band. I was their bass player. Again, just retired bass players. That's what both of us are.
I know. Look at us.
So, in kind of not changing gears too much, what was the inspiration behind the podcast? Because you've done a podcast called A Dirtbag's Guide to Life on the Road, and that does, like, it starts out with you kind of like the theme song kind of explains why it's called the Dirtbag's Guide, like Dirtbag's Guide. Fuck me, god damn it. But I like that it kind of like you get caught up to speed from the theme song alone. But what was the driving force behind that? Because starting a podcast, it's kind of daunting in a way because you don't really realize how much it's time consuming. For one, it definitely has to be something that you have like passion and drive for, because it will eat up your entire fucking day or afternoon or notebook in my case. But yeah, what was the formative years of like Dirtbag's Guide to Life on the Road? How did that start?
I had wanted to do it for a long time, and I've always wanted to create different media around what it is to be like a modern day DIY musician, or as my friend Jericho he's actually my roommate, lives like in that room right there. But he was the first guest on the first episode, and we talked about how, we grew up loving pirates and cowboys, and the way to kind of like live that life modernly is to be a touring musician. And I've just always loved just the sense of adventure that being on the road has, and the camaraderie you get when you meet another like road dog, especially someone who's like done it the hard way, of like just sleeping in vans and on floors and just like going around and being a dirtbag. And I've always loved that world so much, and it's like what I've dedicated my life to just as much as the music. The lifestyle is an important thing to me. And so it was just made sense to like shoot the shit and tell stories about being on the road. And I have always found people who decide to live a life outside of your normal like 9 to 5 regular Monday through Friday job. I've always found those people really interesting. And so just to kind of find out about them. Yeah.
It's funny too, like how you spent all this time doing this, and then when you're not doing it, you're just talking about it, and then you go right back to doing it again.
Yeah.
But like in a way, it's something that obviously you love it, but I've been intrigued by like, so like I've sat and listened to, because I wanted to start doing a podcast too, obviously at one point in time, but like when I was starting to dive into it, Dirtbag's Guide, as well as like the Desert Rats podcast, which are like my friends Zach and Grant. Like I listened to the episode with you, and like we were just talking about our buddy Ian. Like when I heard you talking to Ian, that kind of like solidified something that I was going for, which was like I want to just sit and like chit chat with my buddies. And kind of like I wanted to explain why I like this person, and then try to get everybody on your team, and then we'll talk about something that you're really into. So Dirtbag's Guide was it actually was a huge inspiration, or at least like some form of blueprint for me, because you were able to hone in on like one specific topic, and I've never been able to do that. So I applaud you on that one, dude.
Oh, thank you. That's really cool. I think part of what helped is it was during lockdown that I was able to like buy this microphone and like stuff like that and have the time to actually start a project like that. And that's why once lockdown kind of ended and the years have gone by, there's been a lot of breaks in the podcast because my life will get too crazy, and I'm just not the most organized person. Like, I'm organized enough to like make tours and things like that happen, but like to be out ahead of everything is just, my brain just struggles with that, especially because I don't have like I haven't had like a regular job in a really long time. The last one, I mean, I bartended for years before COVID, but even that's, excuse me, somewhat unpredictable. You get a different schedule each week, or I was always picking up shifts while I'm in town, and then I'd leave town, and it's, and then since COVID, I've just been kind of freelance. So like, I got to take all the jobs that come to me. It's just like sometimes you have insane weeks of like, you're in and out of town nonstop, and then I don't know. So it's just kind of hard to keep up with now that real life has happened. But it is something I love to do, and I'm so glad to be back to putting out episodes again after like over a year break.
Yeah, and we got to do an episode swap, which was something that I was kind of championing for a little bit, that I wanted to do an episode swap with you. So it just so happened to work out that way. I do want to.
Well, and I mean, I gotta also say your encouragement, and like, I don't have a huge listenership, but there are some dedicated listeners, and like there's a handful of people that have reached out over the years being like, hey, I love your podcast. It's really cool. And you're one of those people.
Yeah.
And that's been, it's means so much to have someone say something like that when you're like, oh, this is a labor of love, but I really don't get anything out of it other than really enjoying it.
Right.
So having someone tell you that they really enjoy it is like, oh, cool. It's not just for my selfish benefit that I drive myself fucking nuts trying to make this thing happen.
Exactly.
Like, other people actually get something out of it, and I love that. That's awesome. So thank you for the encouragement, bud.
Yeah, dude. Like, it's been happening to me a little bit more. I wouldn't say it's like it's not a consistent thing. It doesn't have to be either, but like, people will just like out of nowhere fucking like pop in my DMs, and they're like, hey, dude, I got a second. I threw on an episode of Visceral Musings. I have to say that like I enjoyed this or whatever. And it really does just kind of like, it's so validating in a way where it's like you do shit and you're like, I don't fucking, who's even listening to this shit? Like, who is this for? I mean, obviously it's from me, but I want it to connect with the right people or whatever. So like, I understand where you're coming from with that. And also I wanted to say as a side note, this was not something that I was really into, like, so I can't really expand too much on it, but there was a guy, Matt something, that used to do a podcast called like, it was like Getting Stoked or something, that was in Arizona. Yeah, I remember. I didn't really listen to that dude a whole lot, but I remember your episode on there. And so this is actually kind of interesting because like I listened to your episode on Matt's podcast, and then I think I've talked to this, I don't remember, but when we finally got together and we played a show, it was like Phil, -32, and you in your parents' backyard. You were talking about like things that like you were talking about coming out on the other side of like mental health issues and like so many things, but it was crazy because in a way I felt like I already knew you because of this conversation, even though we hadn't really like hit it off or talked all that much. But like, so I also appreciated that aspect of like vulnerability that you've been able to like incorporate into not only like Dirtbag, but also like other interviews that you've done. There's a very like exposed nerve that you don't mind showing to people. And I also applaud your bravery on that, because I don't always have that in me to be seen that way. So, and obviously like it connected, it found the right people, because I listen to it a lot. You and I have a juxtaposition a little bit where you're more like depressed and I'm more anxious, but then like I found middle ground in like, hearing you talk about like what depression felt like to you, because I didn't experience it until I was probably in like my mid-20s, like real depression. But yeah, it was actually helpful in a way.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. I love to hear that, because I've kind of always been like, at this point, I don't know if I'll ever have kids. Like, I don't think it's a thing that I'll do, but I have in a way always really, because I didn't have like a, like, I guess we'll just chalk it up to daddy issues, but like, like, having like, especially men in my life that were older that would like say real shit to me always meant a lot to me, because, because so much of like men talking to each other is like, can be so toxic. And so, and then we just don't talk about like the hard shit. And I've lost a lot of friends to suicide or overdoses and whatnot. And and just kind of like, I think, at least for me, I've always tried to be really real about that stuff because I've always really appreciated when I could, hear other people being vulnerable about it and open about it. And it's important for us all to know that, like, whatever you're going through, other people have gone through something similar or have had similar emotions and whatnot. So it's good to, like, have people that are willing to share that and share, like, how they've gotten better at dealing with it or how they've gotten better at, or like just being able to tell themselves, like, there's another side to this, like,
right.
let's try and find the other side of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. Okay. What is the wildest thing you have seen or experienced while out on the road?
Oh my God. Fuck. Oh, dude. I'm having so many stories run through my head, but I feel like this one's got to be topical because of just the year that we're having as a country. So, a couple years ago, I was doing a tour with my dog Banjo. It was a solo tour, and I had kind of planned it out because it was like late summer, so I had planned it out. So I wanted to just go spend some time in the mountains in Colorado and Utah and Montana. And I had booked it to where I had shows Thursday through Sunday, and then I had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or some weeks Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. And Banjo and I would just go hiking in the mountains and just have, like, just the best time. Go fishing and just spend, like, multiple nights at some alpine lake and then, like, come back down and, like, get a hotel shower and play a show. It's probably one of my favorite tours I've ever been on. But I had someone in Montana help me out and book a handful of the shows out there. And sorry, I'm really good at telling long stories for short anecdotes. But
that's fine. That's all. That's what the show's all about, man.
That's what podcasting's for, though. That's also why it's good for me because I can tell stories. But so, like, Montana, it was awesome. But I was having some car trouble while I was there. Like, my alternator had failed in Bozeman. I was in Missoula, and so I went to AutoZone, and they didn't have, like, the right alternator part, but I was like, I'm going to Billings, do they have one at the AutoZone there? And, like, the guy working was like, I'm actually the manager at the AutoZone in Billings. I'm just working here for a weekend, like, filling in. So he's like, come by and I'll take care of you. So anyways, I go to Billings a day or two later. My car would start. I just had to jump it, and as long as it was running, it would stay running. And so I get to Billings, and, like, I have to change my alternator in the parking lot of an AutoZone, having never done that before. And, just the only video I could find on YouTube was, like, a British person doing it. And so it was all reversed. It was all backwards.
Oh, shit.
And so, but, I figured it out, and that manager at that AutoZone was super helpful. And I did it just in time to get to this hotel where I was playing in the bar of the hotel that night. And I got a room with the gig, and it was like play for 3 hours. You just play all night. You make tips, and you get a guarantee of money. Those are usually the gigs that, like, are how I tour because, I can't really draw enough people selling $10 a ticket to, like, make money. So it's usually, like, gigs like that. And
most of us can't, to be real. Like, most of us cannot.
Yeah. No, totally. But that's also how I make touring happen. And it's like what I've had, some people hate doing gigs like that. And for me, I just kind of bite the bullet, and I'm just like, this is what pays for it. And then I get to play fun, what I call punk rock shows with my friends in the towns that we can make money doing that.
Right.
And, I'd never played in Billings before. I don't know if I'd ever even been there before. But I get to this hotel. It's the Billings Hotel and Convention Center. And I walk in to check in, and it's just buzzing with people. And they all look like they're extras in Yellowstone. And I'm like, checking in. And then I ask because I'm like, oh, these Cowboy folks will really dig my music. I'm like, I think that I'll be able to strike a chord with these folks. And so I asked the lady at the front desk after I check in, I'm like, hey, what convention's in town this weekend? And she's like, It's the Montana GOP convention.
Oh, shit.
And I'm just like, oh, fuck. So, I'm exhausted, had been in the mountains and then had car trouble. I had to change my alternator that morning. I get into the room. I get Banjo, my dog, into the room. I take a shower. I get ready, and I just leave Banjo in the room while I go down there and play. I set up and everything like that. But I decided, I have this shirt from a harm reduction mutual aid organization in Oklahoma. I think it's called OKHRA. Yeah, I think that Oklahoma Harm Reduction Association. Yeah, they're fucking great. They were like giving out Narcan and stuff like that at one of my shows, and so now I have Narcan in my merch kit.
So do I have it in my car. My cousin,
Yeah, so it's they're just great folks, and they had a shirt that said abortion is harm reduction, and so I bought it, and so at this show, that's essentially the cocktail hour of the Montana GOP convention.
Dude, I'm stressed out hearing you. Keep going.
And so I've got like a pearl snap button up on, and I've got my abortion is harm reduction shirt on underneath it, and I start the set with. I play one or two songs before taking off the shirt, just to kind of like gauge the crowd, and like it's just obvious that these people could give two shits about whether I was there or not.
Right.
And so I was like, fuck it. So I take off my button-up shirt, and it says abortion is harm reduction on my shirt, and I just end up playing a bunch of my most leftist songs that I can, and just being and just like staring at the back of the room the whole time, or like trying to make eye contact with people when I can. But it was like a 3-hour set, and I didn't get any applause like the whole time.
Damn.
And the last two songs I was playing, like at the end of the night, there was like 4 people. It was like a group of Native people that had come in, and they cheered for me. Like after the last 2 songs, they were fucking stoked. It was awesome. And then I go stand by the merch table, just like proud, just like standing there like, I wonder if anyone's going to say anything to me. And someone came over and just like put like one person came over and just put like a $5 bill in my tip jar, didn't say anything, and walked off. And it was like, oh, cool. And then there was this woman and this man, they were a couple, and the woman has like a $10 bill, and she puts it in, and she's like, I like your shirt. And I was like, oh, that's great. I'm glad you like it. Even if we're on different sides of the political aisle, most Americans, if we believe in democracy, most Americans agree in a person's right to choose.
Right.
And then she's like, yeah, but then you have the whole life is sacred thing. And I was like, yeah, well, I guess we could have the Easter Bunny start influencing our laws if you want.
Oh, shit.
And like her husband was just red-faced and embarrassed, and they just walked off. And, I was just like, man, if someone's going to fucking shoot me, they're going to shoot me, I really think it's important to make people like that feel uncomfortable in places that they think they're going to be comfortable, because because it's people like that. Like normally I don't mind people that are like, for the most part, it's like you can be conservative or whatnot. It's like you're not my enemy automatically. You know what I mean? But
right.
Like if you're a person that's been like in rooms influencing policy over the past 50 years, and it's like conservative policy, like you're a person I want to make feel uncomfortable, and like, fuck you. And the next day when I was leaving, there was a bunch of people loading in for the convention that day, and I just like rolled down my window and I yelled, Donald Trump's a fascist and none of you are Christians if you support him, and drove off. God
damn. That takes fucking balls, dude. I wouldn't have done shit like that. I've always taken kind of a back seat, but I mean, in some sense of the word, but like, dude, I feel tense. Like when you were talking about like you started playing your set, I was like, oh shit. But that's actually kind of...
My mouth was dry that whole evening, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I was also like sober at that point, so I wasn't drinking at all. So I'm just fucking sober doing that like an asshole. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Actually, it kind of is a good segue to my next question, which was the juxtaposition of being a progressive or a liberal while also being a country musician is usually pretty apparent, right? Like it's a pretty prominent like contrast of. So, what do you think it was that prompted you to take such a punk rock approach to country music? Because I mean, it's not like it's a novel concept. I mean, when you have people like I don't know, like Waylon Jennings or like Jason Isbell, or I mean, even like Johnny Cash. That might be some foreshadowing. But what do you think was the driving force behind you taking like that sort of approach to a genre that's usually dominated by like conservative or like good old boy ideals?
I mean, I think it's a lot of things, you know, like my earliest musical influences were Garth Brooks, you know, things like that was like what my dad and my mom had on the radio. Like most of my childhood was Garth Brooks or country radio. And, you know, as I got older, like it's funny, my first guitar, I put a sticker on it that said like, discourage inbreeding, ban country music. You know, I was like 12 years old and I was like, this is how I'm going to stick it to my folks. And so, you know, it was like kind of a long journey before I didn't listen to country again until, like after the heavier, like hardcore, whatever you want to call it, the band I was in high school led by The Flame, like, there was like a real divide for me after I left high school, and like I had played sports. I was kind of a little bit of a jock, even though like, you know, music and skateboarding and snowboarding were like the most important thing to me. But you know, where we grew up, that was like a easy way to just like kind of blend in, and I really enjoyed it. I was good, you know, I was lucky enough to be pretty athletic. So, but like, there's a lot of toxic shit that comes along with high school sports, especially growing up in a world where like that's the thing that matters the most. And I kind of associated that toxicity with heavy music for a long time. So like after I graduated high school, I really slowed down on listening to very much heavy music. Like the heaviest it would get would be like Brand New, you know, Scandal noted.
I mean, yeah, I still fuck with Brand New though. Like when I listen to their shit, like I still get like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Like that Sowing Season song is so like, or that whole record is so fucking good.
Devil and
but
God
also
is so fucking good, man.
Yeah, but also Jesse Lacey's a fucking problematic dude. Like,
yeah,
you know, but I don't know. So like that kind of got me getting into like a lot of like really indie music and whatnot, and then Alaska and me, like Tyler and I kind of deep dived into like leaned really hard into the country cowboy western thing of like where we grew up, and you know, reading Pulp Fiction, like cowboy novels of Louis L'Amour and Zane Grey and stuff like that. So when we wrote I Will Die in the West, that's kind of the path we were on, but that wasn't like a very country record. And then that band broke up, and I remember our friend, oh man, our buddy who used to be in the Maine, but now his band's like Holy Fawn.
Oh, holy shit! Yeah, I know who they are.
I can't remember why. Ryan Osterman, I want to say is his name.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I remember we were at a party and he showed me the song "Let It Ride" by Ryan Adams, and I was like, and this is shortly after Alaska and me broke up, and I was like, that's the music I want to make. Like, that shit is so sick. And then around that same time, Ben Nichols from Lucero released this album, I Will Die in the West, The Last Pale Light in the West. And it was like pretty much a album written about characters in the Cormac McCarthy book, Blood Meridian. And I had like just read that book. I was really into Cormac McCarthy at the time, so I loved that record. And then my best friend Tyler Massey, not Tyler from Alaska and me, he ended up giving me a burned copy of, like, it was Johnny Cash, and it was like Unearthed and like American I want to say recordings, or American something, the one with Hurt on it. And it was just those two records on a burned CD. And I started listening to that a ton. And around that same time, I started writing my own songs just on this like shitty nylon acoustic guitar that my 6th grade teacher had given me. And that's where all my first songs got written. And it was just easy for me to do cowboy chords. And like when I started listening to Johnny Cash, it was like I was always aware of him, but like this was like the first time I'd really listened to him that much. And then this was also like that later in his life, Rick Rubin produced stuff.
Right.
That like it's just like really, really easy. Like when you're learning how to write songs, it's like the perfect thing because it's all these great old country songs that they're like demos and shit of him playing them like into like a tape recorder on his coffee table and shit,
right.
You know? And so it was just like, and I wasn't a good singer. So for me to sing, it's like a lower register. It was easier for me to sing like Johnny Cash. Like people for years made the joke that I was like the poor man's Johnny Cash. And, you know, and so that, that's kind of where that all came from, you know?
I like that. That's a good answer.
It's a long answer. I'm good at those.
I got another one. This is my last question for you before we transition into something. I got a little something planned, but you can take it how you want to, but when somebody listens to something that you've worked on, whether it's, you know, you did a record with Vincent Draper, which you just did the 10-year anniversary for. You've done, you know, Dirtbag's Guide, you've done like 10 years of like back catalog Charles Ellsworth music or like A.B. Chettisky, and you have your web series and stuff. When people watch these things, when they consume you, when you enter them, what do you want for them to have as like, what's the takeaway that you hope people get from something that you've worked on or created that they're now consuming?
Oh man. When I enter them, I want them to feel pleasure. I want
amen,
them to climax. A
giver,
you know, like the
selfless lover. I like it.
Yes, selfless creator. I mean, it is like weird. The older I get, the more I really feel like the most important thing for all of us to keep in mind is how. And it's like such a cliche, but like how, like for most of us, we're all like literally in this together. And like you know, it's like the meme of like the fucking dude who makes $30K a year on the internet defending billionaires. I would hope that if people listen to my music or consume my stuff, it could help them realize or reaffirm the notion that like working people are all we got, and solidarity is the only way out of any of this. And you know, like I've written a lot of love songs that are like, you know, just emo as fuck and probably not that substantial in the long run. And like while I still love writing love songs and I think it's important, I think the most important thing you can get from any art is empathy, and I hope that the empathy they get is for like the right people, you know, right. For like working people, solidarity, like we're all, you know, intersectionality, all of those things. I'd hope it would, you know, inspire people to think in that direction.
Right. I like that. That's a really beautiful take on it. I'm gonna switch gears entirely, and I'm gonna call back to something, which, you know, I recently did your podcast. And towards the end of our conversation, we were talking about like you and I have similar beliefs on a lot of things, and part of that would come from like, you know, I'm at the cutoff for millennial and the beginning of Gen Z, whereas you were saying like you were pretty like well immersed into like you're a millennial. Like that's where it's come from. But okay, so I wanted to point out that millennials are responsible for some of the worst slang terms ever adopted by a concentrated group of people. Popular examples of this would include doggo, or puppers, or fur baby, as we got totes, adulting. We got YOLO and FOMO, bae, on fleek, ermagerd, the butt first coffee type. You know where I'm going with this. There's a phenomenon that's being well documented on TikTok and other social media platforms that I'm sure you're aware of called millennial cringe. And I don't want you to fall victim to saying shit like I did a thing or calling people your spirit animal. So what's going to happen now is we're going to transition into a game show segment.
Okay.
It's time for Millenials Learn to Serve Cunt. America's #1 game show, hosted by me, Cody Reed. The rules are simple. I'm going to read our contestant a series of Gen Z slang terms or phrases, and he has to guess, what the fuck are these kids talking about? Alrighty, folks, let's get right back to this episode of Visceral Musings. God damn it, I am getting old. I'm going to read you a Gen Z slang term or phrase, and you're going to give me your best guess at what you think its definition is. Now, I want to note, it's okay for you to get it wrong. Every wrong answer is an opportunity for you to learn how to slay. You got me?
Sure.
I'm trying to rizz you up. You see what I'm doing here?
I'm ready for this. I'm so excited. I'm going to look like such an old fart. It's going to be great.
All right, so number 1, we have ATE. ATE, 8. What do you think that means?
I mean, could you use it in a sentence?
Absolutely.
Or does that give it away?
Okay, no, this is good. They ate and left no crumbs. Or, you ate with those pants.
Like, really went for it. Like, you're really fully embracing it.
That's pretty good. Okay, so the technical definition would be succeeding or like doing well. Like you're doing instead of saying like, "Oh, hey, I really like the way that you put your outfit together today," it'd be like, "Girl, you ate with that outfit." See what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. And full disclosure, I didn't know what a lot of these things meant. I had to look them up.
Yeah, it's just funny because like when I was a kid in the '90s, that probably could have been like talking shit about somebody's weight.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
If you said you ate in those pants or whatever, and I'm not one to body shame, but like in the 90s, it was very much like
it's pretty common.
Body shaming. Yeah, you know what common. I mean? Sorry.
Anyways. Number 2, it is ASL. Sort of like that.
ASL?
It's a word, not American Sign Language. The word is, it would, technically it looks like it says ASL, but it's ASL. As a word, it's pronounced. You know what? I'm just going to tell you this one because I didn't get it for a long...
Okay, but I know what it is.
Okay.
It's because I used to be on early chat rooms in the internet.
Oh, shit.
Age, sex, location.
Okay, so you are right and also wrong. So what you're saying is right, but it's been adopted by Gen Z for as hell. So they say ASL as in like SL. So like they would say like...
so like we used to say AF?
Yeah. Like that. Like it's kind of like millennials got AF or ASF or whatever, ASL.
Yeah.
Yeah. I fucking hate that one, to be honest with you. Every time I read it, I always read it as American Sign Language, and I don't know why. Like it's the first thing that pops up in my head.
I don't know if that's crossed my millennial feed yet.
Oh, fuck. You're going to start seeing it now. It's like one of those things where you Google, like, for me, recently it was like I looked up fucking insoles for my shoes. Because I've been like workshopping different ones or whatever, and now every fucking time I go on Instagram, it's like plantar fasciitis pain, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here, get the fuck away from me. All right, number 3, we have Sigma.
Sigma.
This one I think I hate the most.
I mean, is it like kind of another word for like beta?
Sort of, actually, yeah. That's pretty good, yeah.
Beta cuck?
Sort of, yeah. It means independent male on top of the social hierarchy, or like Sigma. So my use it in a sentence, I wrote, Donald Trump is so Sigma. I don't know.
Okay, so it's not beta.
And I can't, no, it'd be more like alpha.
Okay, gotcha.
It comes from wolves. It's like, it applies to like wolves. Like in a pack of wolves, there would be like a Sigma male wolf. And so it's just like adopted into a social thing that makes it even more fucking stupid. And like, I don't know, I've heard it. It's kind of hard with this one. I couldn't tell if it's a good thing. And I'm doing this. I wrote the game and I put it together and I'm presenting it to you and I don't even know what the fuck it means all the way. I'm trying to figure that one out a little bit. I can't tell if it's
we're learning together.
Yeah. Is this a good or a bad thing? I can't all the way tell. because it kind of seems like Joe Rogan coded type. I don't know. I can't really tell all the way on that one.
I can't either, but I'll probably be using it regularly in like a year or so.
Yeah, probably. Number 4. I know you'll get this one. Riz.
Oh, man. It's like, oh, man, what does that word come from? You know, like, I don't know. It's like flair. It's like extra, like it's like the icing on top, like the Riz. Like you got, I don't know. It's like Riz is a state of mind, is a state of being. It's not like a descriptor, like someone's got Riz or they don't.
I like the Riz is a state of mind. That's good. It means charisma. It comes from charisma.
Oh yeah, charisma. That's what I knew. It was from another word, but
and now it's kind of like it's like chatting people up, like, oh, he's got Riz or whatever. What did I write for this one? Did you see that video where Prince rizzed up Maria Bartiromo? There's a video where Prince is like, he's on an interview with Maria, and he's like he pulls out a guitar and starts playing for her, and she's eating that shit up. It's so fucking good. Yeah, Prince was the original Rizzler.
Prince is a god.
We're gonna skip a couple of these. Because this one, I wrote one down. It's fucking dumb. It was Gyat. I don't even want to fucking touch that one. I think it's dumb. Let's see. Mid.
Like not great.
There you go.
Average, but like below average. Like average, right. But like in a bad way.
Yeah, it's like average, derogatory, not special. What I wrote was The Bear season 3. The Bear season 3 was kind of mid.
I haven't watched any of The Bear, and I was just advertised so hard for the new season. Like every episode, every YouTube video I watched for 2 weeks was like advertising that show, and I don't have anything against it. I just worked in the service industry for 10 years and I hated it, and I hated everything about it, and like I still have stress dreams about working in the service industry, so I'm like, I don't really want to watch a show where, like, and I'm sure there's more to it than just working in the service industry.
Not really.
But I'm just like, I have zero desire to watch a show about that, because I just, like, the best thing that ever happened to me was getting fired from my last bartending job.
Yeah, like, I don't have any desire to go back to working in food. I like the show for the first 2 seasons. The third one is just like, I don't know. It gets too, like, it's like more obscure or like abstract. And it's more just like a visual metaphor for being stressed out, and there's not very much story to it. So it's very artsy, but for me, it's just lacking substance, if that makes sense. But
it's like the Fly episode of Breaking Bad,
or the Meta World News parts in Atlanta, where it like where it just kind of I don't know, it not Meta World News. I was thinking isn't it Meta World Peace does like Meta World News or some shit. I don't remember. But anyway, we've got just a couple more for you. And this one was actually my favorite because I didn't know a whole lot about it, but it actually kind of makes sense. Number 7 is Girl Math.
Yeah, Girl Math is like math that female identifying person like does on the regular, or like or like boy math is also. It's funny because I can't remember it exactly, but my girlfriend is a writer, and she got a headline on Reductress that was about boy math that was very funny, and I can't remember exactly what it is. But.
I actually love this shit. So it was like, okay, so let's say you buy a pair of shoes for $50, right? And then you take them home, and you're like, oh fuck, I don't like these shoes. So you take them back, and then you return the shoes for $50, and then you buy a different shoe that costs $75. You only spent $25. Girl math.
Oh yeah.
Or this was my favorite one too. So you buy something in cash, it's basically free because you didn't spend any money out of your bank account. Since you're not spending money from a bank account and you bought it with cash, it's free.
Yeah, totally. That's why dealing drugs is the best.
Exactly. Girl math.
Because it's always cash.
That's all that drugs are, dude. It's all just girl math. Number 8, body count.
Is that a sex thing?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's the amount of sexual partners you've had. What I wrote for this one was, bro caught his first body at like 15. Now his body count is in the mid-30s. There you go. There's a Gen Z slang term for you. Use in a sentence. This is my. So we have two more. This first one is my personal favorite. Bussy.
Oh, that's like boy pussy.
There we go. That is my favorite Gen Z slang term. Is bussy.
It's a good one.
So here's what I wrote. This is bussy used in a sentence is, girl, you know Chuck Ellsworth got that gorilla grip bussy.
Yeah.
Lips
that grip.
Number 10 is a two-parter, and it is the finale to the first half of Charles Ellsworth's Visceral Musing episode. So it is A, cook, and B would be cooked. What do you think A means? So the first question...
it's like let him cook, like let him do his thing, like let him, if... Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
that's right. So it's initiating a situation with the intent of achieving a result. So like give them some room. So here at Visceral Musings, one of the things that we like to say, or that I like to say, is let me spread my cheeks. That's like let me cook real quick. Like let me spread my cheeks. And
give me a sec. Let me spread my cheeks.
Let me spread my cheeks on that one a little bit. And then be cooked.
Cooked is like done, like
yeah, that's what it means.
He's just like he's fucking done. He's fucking cooked, kid. That kid is cooked.
Right. So this is my use it in a sentence was, bro, after Trump caught that stray, Biden is so cooked.
Oh damn! I mean, I wish it didn't ring so true, but unfortunately,
it is. He won re-election with that one. All righty.
I mean, I can't give up hope this early in the game. Had it happened in October, I'd be like, yeah, it's over.
Fuck.
But
dude.
I mean, there's a lot of time between now and then. I can't give up hope, and I don't even fucking like Biden that much. But like, whew.
Dude,
whew.
You know what really hurts the most about all this is that we lost Tenacious D over it. That fucking sucks. Did you see that? Where Kyle Gass and Jack Black are having a falling out over him making a joke about it on stage? Yeah,
I mean, my personal opinion is like this ought to hurt Jack Black more in the long run.
Right. Hey, spread your cheeks, man. Spread your cheeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like fucking... I don't know. Like, the joke Kyle made was fucking a great joke. We've all... Like, I mean, and I have a controversial opinion about this, but it's like, these people in our government are so entrenched and so, like... And not just Trump, but like Supreme Court justices, so many of them. It's like when they tried to fucking hang Pence and Pelosi. It's like I kind of wish they had.
Yeah, they brought a gallows to the Supreme or to the whatever the fuck. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, like, and it's like a fucking joke. Like Tenacious D is like a comedy band. To make that joke is like it's not even a distasteful joke in my opinion, and also like. I don't know, man. If they didn't miss Trump, we might still have that fire chief. So, I mean, who knows? We lost. Yeah, and fire chiefs actually help people. Like, that fire chief it's like why nobody says fuck the fire department. Like, the fire department actually helps people and does something for society. Right. Like, you know what I mean? It's like there's no moral loss by, like, shooting someone like Donald Trump or Mitch McConnell. People like that it's like they're responsible for more death than any one of us could be, than anyone who shot one person could be. And like True. my friends and family and people that I really care about are like so much closer to being murdered by their thugs or like having their rights taken away by their fucking shit Supreme Court that like like there's so much more of a danger to me and my friends and the people I care about than like one fucking person trying to kill one of them. So like fuck them and like fuck their condemnation of political violence when like they put political violence on all of us all the time by not letting us have fucking health care, by not letting us like have a living wage. But like how is that not violence? Exactly. So like. And this is a long way to say that, like, Jack Black, you're fucking wrong, dude. Like, you're fucking wrong. It was a funny joke. And, like, go fuck yourself, dude. Yeah, that's kind of what happened with, like, there's been a lot of people. I've said some shit out of turn. There's a lot of things that I've said that I probably shouldn't have fucking said. But, like, in this particular instance where he's publicly apologizing and shit, I'm like, dog, you actually said something funny. Everybody else got, like, their panties in a wad over it. Who fucking cares? Yeah,
Move on.
And also, it's like
he's a fucking comedian. It's not like he's a fucking politician, like inciting like I don't know, like an insurrection or some shit. He's just
100%
just said
and
some shit.
Also, the thing is like to be like, don't miss Trump next time is like the whole thing is if you're gonna shoot, don't miss because you just lost the election for Joe Biden. Right. You know what I mean? It's like that's the whole thing is like if you're gonna shoot, don't fucking miss. Like,
and I want to point out, dude, it was his birthday. His wish, and who are you to have any cross opinions on it? Anyway,
yeah, totally. As long as he's not trying to fuck kids, like
there we go.
It's his birthday. You know what I mean?
So concludes the first half of this episode of Visceral Musings. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Johnny Cash Unearthed. Let's take it to the potty break. Hello and welcome to another potty break. Right here at the midway point of every single episode, we like to prompt every single listener, no matter where the fuck you came from, to give us a like or to follow us over on Instagram at Visceral Musings Pod. Subscribe to us on YouTube and be sure to fondle and tongue punch that like button every single week. If you're listening over on Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. But more importantly than all of that, if you are not listening to A Dirtbag's Guide to Life on the Road, the podcast hosted by our guest, Charles Ellsworth, then what the actual fuck are you doing? The guy's got a back catalog of work that expands over a decade, and it'll take you a while to do a deep dive and to get well versed in all the lore. He has projects like Salt Lake City, A Love Story. He's got my personal favorite, the Honeysuckle Summer album. So many projects. The Rose Door. He has the A.B. Cheddisky stuff. But anyway, let's get back to this episode of Visceral Musings. Go check out Charles's work. So first it was 5 albums. Then it was, sorry, dude, I didn't realize that was 5 albums. Let's do Unearthed, which clocks in at 4 fucking albums and is over 4 hours long. So clearly you're a size queen when it comes to your musical projects. But my first question is that I like to ask every single guest whenever we do stuff like this is, why do you give such a shit about Johnny Cash's Unearthed?
Well, I mentioned in the first half of the podcast that like the time I was given this burn CD that I don't even know which CDs from this or which, like I can't remember. I don't know what was on there. It just said Johnny Cash Unearthed and American recordings. And so it was just like a time, it really informed a lot of my early songwriting and I listened to it a ton. And around that time, you know, I read one of Johnny Cash's autobiographies and, you know, when the Walk the Line movie came out when I was in high school, I really enjoyed it. And, yeah. And I mean, and then you can go down, you know, the list of songs on it, you know, they're either great, they're just great covers of like classic country songs, like Marty Robbins stuff. And, you know, it just was a really cool, for me, it was a really cool way to learn a lot about country music history in a way, but through just this one burn CD that like then when I would hear Banks of the Ohio later on and I'm like, oh, that's a Doc Watson song.
Yeah.
But it's really like an old folk tune that's like been around for a long time that he kind of just put his version to, you know, right. It's a murder ballad.
And
so,
he does certain things in this album too that I think come across really apparently in because you did say it a second ago that most of it or like a large part of it is like him sitting and like recording these things in what it sounds like, you know, a cassette tape or like an 8-track recorder that's just going while he does it. It's very honest and like vulnerable sounding, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's exactly how they did it, but I do know in the
Oh no, I don't think that's how they did it. But that's definitely what it sounds like. It sounds like that.
Yeah, well, in the autobiography I read of his, he talks about recording with Rick Rubin and how Rick like was bugging him for a really long time about making that record, and he was like, "Let me just come into your living room and like we'll just set up a tape recorder and like you and an acoustic guitar and we'll record some songs just to kind of give you an idea of what working with me would be like." And they did that, and that's where, and I don't know if any of those ended up on the actual record. Man, my dog's freaking out back there.
Oh, Doggo?
Yeah, my doggo.
Fur baby?
My floof.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
But yeah, I think so. I don't know if that any of those things actually got on the record, but like it is kind of cool that that's like how they envisioned it and how Rick Rubin pitched him on it. Like, hey, this is what I'm picturing is just you acoustic guitar. Let's like make this as simple as possible.
And in some ways, it ended up being like his fucking magnum opus because like you get hurt at the end of this collection. Anyway, before we get there, so. This isn't a question; it's more just like a side note that I had when I started playing music. We talked about this a little bit too. That I got burn CDs that were just like mix CDs from my older brother and his college buddies. But when my older brother would come home from college, he had this iPod, like the first generation iPod, and I was fucking obsessed with it, like because he had so many songs in it. So he would come home, and I would just be like, "Can I listen to your iPod? Can I listen to your iPod?" And I'd go sit and like dig through it so that I could like find out what he had. It was like I don't know, man. It was the holy grail for me. But the nature of like burn CDs is so like a lot of younger people wouldn't really get it as much, or even people my age wouldn't get it as much because I grew up with my sister's 10 years older than me. My older brother's 14 years fucking older than me. Like I grew up with older people or people that were older than me. And so like I was always interested in what they were into. So my brother came home from college a couple times and he that was where I first learned about like the Taking Back Sunday brand new beef. So he burned me like Tell All Your Friends and Your Favorite Weapon on the same CD so that I could listen to both of them like in tandem to like kind of get what the deal was. Or like he did like Deja Entendu with Where You Want to Be. Those are two of my favorite albums like ever written. So like I don't know, it is really cool like how you got to like those were essentially like my Johnny Cash Unearthed. So I don't know, that's pretty rad.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. The burn CDs. It's such a funny phenomenon that was such like a important part of like my musical journey that now is just like not a thing at all. Like I don't even have a CD player in my van.
Yeah, I have a CD burner. But it's mostly just as like a novelty. Like we would burn CDs and sell them at the merch table. Like people don't really want them, but people want them, I guess. Like so I don't know. It's like sometimes I'll have the CDs and I'm like, who the fuck is this for? Like I have they're like literally sitting right here. Hold up, I got. People can't see. You can see me. Other people cannot. But like this is these are the Fill the Band songs that I worked on. So yeah, Ian was cool enough to give me one of the CDs of that. But anyway, my next question is, how pivotal was it for you to hear these, they're very bare bones versions of Johnny Cash and like other artists, like these songs are compiled onto this collection of records. And, how has it guided you as both a lyricist and a performer, like hearing these? Cause it is really something that you can't acknowledge it while it's happening. You can only look at it in the rear view where you're like, fuck man, this was like I got this. And then the next day, everything was fucking different for me. Like you can't relive that. So what do you think the impact was? Or like, how was it pivotal to you as like a performer and a songwriter?
I mean, just in so many ways, like I could relate to so many of the songs. And like it had me like, I mean, the simplicity of the songwriting, a lot of them is like, it's just so simple. And just like what I love about songwriting is how it can tell complex stories in like a pretty short format. And usually the people who do that well do it through, economics of words. You're using the most potent or like the best words you can to like convey a point while trying to use as little words as possible. And I think this collection does it really well because it's choosing so many great songs from throughout, the years. Like even Hurt was a very different song when 9 Inch Nails made it. And,
oh yeah.
And then the Johnny Cash version of it is just like a whole different thing. And in a way, Johnny Cash almost owned that song in a way Trent Reznor never could, even though he fucking wrote it.
Right.
So, there's like that. But it's also when I first started writing songs was when I first heard these records, and it seemed like something I could achieve. You know, we talked about on my podcast how I was the bass player of Alaska and Me because, you know, they already had two guitarists. I was probably the worst of the three of us at guitar, and I was good at booking shows and networking and running the MySpace page. And so when I stepped off to do my own songs, it was like a really intimidating thing because I really looked up to Tyler so much as a songwriter, and like that band, how we made music together. It was a hard thing to try and wrap my head around how I would move forward without those guys. And, you know, even though I'd help write the songs with Tyler sometimes, like I was never able to finish a song. I'd come up with an idea and he'd like finish it. And so hearing these songs kind of like really simplified it for me and like kind of made me be like, oh, I don't have to do the thing that I did with that band. I can do this other thing.
Right. So it kind of helped you find out your own formula in a way, because like everybody's got like their own approach or their own like their creative process is like it's so different. And like it's kind of been interesting because like every time I've pivoted, I've always written songs. Like I've always written like fully realized ideas or thoughts or whatever. And like it wasn't always like that when I've worked in other bands. So I've always wondered, like I would have never guessed hearing you as you are now that you had like up until that point, like you weren't really writing fully realized songs, because now you have like so fucking many of them. So it's probably so it's helpful, I guess, if anybody out there is like, fuck man, I don't know how to finish a song. It's like, well, rest assured, because then you can end up just like Charles Ellsworth with a massive back catalog of and good music. So yeah.
Oh, that's really kind. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it still takes me a really long time to finish a song. You know, some songs take me years to finish. But, you know, I also, there's this thing I'm doing this weekend that I was asked to write a song for, and, you know, and I wrote two. And one's, I'm like, I still got to put the finishing touches on, but... And, you know, I'm performing them on Saturday. So it's like kind of last minute. Like, it's like a hard thing to like really, it's still like a weird beast to like try and rope in, you know. Sometimes it just comes to you in 15 minutes and other times it takes fucking 8 years to write a song.
Right. Yeah. I've heard like Alkaline Trio when there's this really cool podcast. It's the guy from Less Than Jake. Krista Makes has a podcast called Krista Makes a Podcast, and basically what he does is he brings on a guest and they talk about, like, they've had Chuck Reagan on, they've had Mark Hoppus, but they had Matt Skiba on one episode where they talked about how he wrote Radio by Alkaline Trio, and he was like, the record was pretty much done, I had a guitar, I walked outside, I was taking a beat, and then I fucking came up with Radio. Which is like, I mean, I'm a huge Alkaline Trio fan. I'm like,
yeah,
like that's so insane to me. Like, because if you listen to like him talking about writing stuff like Good Morning or like the Crimson album, it took a long time to get to where they were at. But it's like you wrote this song that everybody's been begging for you to fucking play every night for 20 years in 15 minutes, and I can't write one.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That song's really fucking good. And Alkaline Trio was like such a formative band for me too. Like when I started getting into punk, someone gave me a burned copy of God Damn It.
Me too, actually.
Was like my one of my early forays into no longer listening to top 40 music.
Yeah, I had my brother gave me God Damn It and Maybe I'll Catch Fire on the same like Burn CD, and that was where that was my first introduction to Alkaline Trio. But I do have, so my follow-up to that is there's a lot of dark storytelling that's laced into these songs in particular, whether it's written by Johnny Cash himself or whether he's doing a cover. But anyway, there's a lot of dark storytelling like laced into these songs, and you tell a lot of stories in your music. A lot of your songs, I'm not going to say every single one of them, tends to follow like a story, or like, there's like the town that I'm from, or there's my personal favorites, Gripping Onto Water. And like, so you're able to do this in such a way, but is it easier for you to write from like firsthand experience? Like, do you find it easier to write something that's like, here's a story about this one time where I did this? Or is it easier for you to like fabricate an entire thing and just kind of like conceptualize it and write it?
I think it used to be that everything had to kind of be from personal experience in some ways. And especially early on, that's where a lot of inspiration would come from, like heartbreak, like, getting broken up with, or wanting to be with someone who you couldn't figure out how to make that work. So I think early on, a lot of it was that sort of thing. But there was always like the storytelling aspect of it too. And so I feel like I've always had kind of a mixture of it. And was the question whether one is easier than the other, or?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean, no, that's
question.
whatever. However you take it, because that's kind of what I was wondering. Is it easier for you to write from like a fictitious standpoint, or is it easier to write from personal experience? Because I mean, I don't know all your fucking stories. So like sometimes when I listen to your music, I find myself wondering like, did this actually fucking happen, or is this like just something that you pulled? Like you wrote a story around like an idea or a concept.
It's definitely a mixture of the two. One time I can't remember if it was in an interview or a tweet, but like I saw Jason Isbell say something about how for him songwriting is a lot more like doing a crossword puzzle than it is like painting a picture from scratch or something like that, where like you have an initial idea of like what the song should be, and then you're trying to like form it into that. In a way, or you're trying to find the words that fit, or like, or you hear a hook in your head and you're like, like one of the songs that I just wrote for this thing, it's supposed to be inspired by, like the thing is like there's this arts community that like is doing this seeing in the Catskills thing, and it's like different artists kind of being inspired by the Catskill Mountains and creating different art from it. And so and this town in Fleischmann's, New York, where it's happening, I went there and met with like a historian of the town, and there's like this field on some property where there's these like old like tractors and stuff from like World War II era that are just rusted over, and like an old school bus from like the 70s that, and it's just like in this forest, in this field. And and so I started thinking about how like the things like at some point that tractor was brand new and someone was stoked to have it, and now it's just kind of like an eyesore on this property. And then I had the idea of like, there's these dollar stores popping up all over America, and they're ripping people off because they're charging, like they seem like they're cheaper than Walmart, but they're actually selling you things that cost more per ounce because the package is smaller. And but they're all over the place. Like, how many dollar stores are in the White Mountains now? Like, each town has fucking many. 3 of them.
Yeah.
And so, like, the idea came, like, I want to write a song that is pretty much like, there's this place where kids used to play and whatnot, and then they, like, fenced it off, and they cut the trees, and they plowed it over, and they built a dollar store. But then, like, a flood comes through and just, like, takes out the dollar store, and there's just this trail of like cheap plastic shit for like 100 miles down this like riverbed. And that was like the initial idea for the song, and then I just kind of wrote it from there. And like none of that's really personal experience other than growing up in a small town and seeing fucking dollar stores pop up all over rural America while I'm traveling, and understanding the actual business of that, where they're actually taking advantage of impoverished people, charging them more per ounce for these items, even though like they think they're getting a deal. And so but then like Gripping Onto Water, like most of that song's definitely like autobiographical. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. No, I like that, because I think all of it kind of loops back to like this style or like this collection of songs. Like when you pitched it to me that you'd be interested in talking about it, and then I went and like I listened to it like full blast on my drive to work the other day, and I work like 20 minutes from home, so I can get you can digest a lot of this album in 20 minutes. It's a lot of them are really short. They're like punk rock country songs. They're a minute and a half, and you can really like chew through them. But I noticed like how when I was listening to, because I can't do it where I'm like, I don't find myself interesting enough to go and like put on a performance of like me and an acoustic guitar where I'm going to keep people engaged, and you do it regularly. And then I could hear where like how captivating it was listening to Johnny Cash tell a story. He's such a good fucking storyteller that it does not matter whether or not it's his story. He can tell a story in such a way that you're just like, you're engaged and you're so into it. And then I was kind of like thinking like, this is where Chuck got it. Like, this is the blueprint. Like Johnny Cash as a storyteller who's able to do this shit and keep people captivated by, like, if you think about it, you're like the poor man's Johnny Cash. No, I'm just kidding. But like,
yeah, no, no, there's like really something to that in a way, in that, this was kind of like my entry point to older country singers, in a way, like on this record is Casey's Last Ride, which is a Chris Christopherson song, which is like one of my favorite songs of all time. But I didn't know who Chris Christopherson was when I first started listening to this record. And then that was like a whole world I got to jump into at some point, because I was like, oh, wait, that's a Chris Christopherson song. Yeah. And then, and wait, he was in a movie with Bob Dylan, and like he was in Blade, and like with Wesley Snipes, and like,
and Barbara Streisand too. He was in a movie with her. What's the name of that fucking movie? They remade it with Lady Gaga. I can't think of the name of it right now. Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga.
A Star Is Born.
A Star Is Born. There we go. God damn it. Why
I never saw that one, but
my mom liked it a lot when I was growing up. She had it on. But anyway, go ahead. That was beside the point.
But I guess it was like, so a lot of the stuff I consumed during the first 4 or 5 years of my becoming a singer-songwriter was, grabbing onto these songwriters, that were also storytellers, Townes Van Zandt and John Prine and Loretta Lynn and Dolly Parton and, just like all kinds of people that that's just kind of what I've always been mostly into. Like, I love like bitch and guitar riffs and stuff like that, but like, really the stories and the lyrics have always would have like been most important to me.
Yeah. So next question is totally not loaded at all whatsoever. What is the emotional impact you take away from this collection of songs?
I mean, dude, there's...
I guess I do tend to ask a little bit of loaded questions sometimes.
Well, what's funny is like, I went back and once we decided this topic, I went back and listened to a bunch of these songs, and I think something that I like was so interested in, and I've always kind of been interested in, is like this like, I don't know how to put it. It's like this American frontierism type of like ideologic, or like this like type of living that I know isn't real and it's like based in a lot of like horrible shit, like stolen land and genocide and all this stuff. But like when I was growing up, there was like this inherent morality of man and of like I mean, it's like hard to explain. There's like the first song, Long Black Veil, it's like this guy that's like, I can't tell them my alibi, even though I didn't kill this person, but I was sleeping with my best friend's wife. So they killed me because they think that I killed this guy. But really, I didn't. I was like having an affair with my best friend's wife. And now she visits me. She visits my grave, and she wears a long black veil when she does, so nobody knows who she is. But like, she really loved me, and she visits me. And it's like this song being sung from the grave, and then there's like Big Iron, the Martin Robbins song about like the Arizona Ranger that comes to town and shoots Big Red, and like, I mean, I guess the Arizona Ranger is a bastard too, because ACAB, but I don't know. It's just like I've always been intrigued by my grandparents, especially like when. And sorry, I try and make too much of things. It just makes me feel really nostalgic and really like hopeful for like in America that I know like probably never really existed and now is being like exploited to sell people on shit like Donald Trump and anti-abortion shit, even though even though it's being sold as freedom, but like it's just like the simple morality of my grandparents. Like I remember when my stepdad told his dad and his mom that his stepdaughter was gay. My grandpa's reaction was like, "Well, is she happy?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay," and I know a lot of people of his generation didn't think that way, and he probably didn't think that way his whole life. But like these songs kind of make me think of like that simple thing of like my grandma told me like, God doesn't care what church you go to. He just cares that you go to church. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, and I'm not even religious, but for me, it just like scratches that itch of like an Americana that's like not real.
Oh my God. I just thought of the funniest thing, not to shit on that story, but like where you said your grandpa was told, or like grandpa was told that his stepdaughter was gay, and he was like, "Well, is she happy?" And they're like, "Yes, grandpa, she's happy." And then he's like, "Well, then that's all right with me." But then he finds out that she fucks women, and he's like,
that she's a lesbian. And he's
she
like,
does
"Oh, I thought
what?
you meant like gay. I thought you meant like gay happy. Like gay means happy."
That's a good. I think that's also like why. Like I remember at my grandmother's, like we had a memorial for my grandmother a couple years ago, and like all that we put on to like commemorate her were like old songs that she would have listened to back when. I don't know why she liked all the country music that she liked so much, but like my brother was in charge of like playing the music, and like still sometimes when I hear these things, I remember like my grandmother's collection of records. And like just flipping through them and like the shit that she listened to. So I understand where you're coming from with that, which is like, it's a really special and beautiful thing that I never even really experienced firsthand, but I still get like that. I get what you mean by like that longing for something that you didn't even experience in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, and I think there's like everything's so paced and like insane right now, where like the news cycle, like we're just being bombarded with images and information from our phones like nonstop, and like in a way the message of anything real gets lost to me. And like there's this song, like once again, I'm not religious at all. Like I grew up religious.
Did you grow up Mormon?
Yeah.
Were you a big like soaker or?
I was 15 when I left the church, and I didn't kiss a girl till I was like 16. So soaking wasn't on the table for years.
You missed the soak wave, man.
Yeah, by that point, I mean I have floated the Provo River, which is where BYU is in Utah, but I actually was floating on a river.
I was going to say, is that what the kids are calling it?
We used to call it floating, and so I'd be like, hey, you want to go float the Provo River as like a euphemism. But speaking of religious shit, like there's a song on here called No Earthly Good. I think it might be an old gospel song. I don't know. But it's like
there is a collection of hymns. It's called Hymns from My Mother's Songbook. That's one of the records on there. So it could have been something like that.
Yeah, this song is like, it's pretty much just like, you're so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good. Like, and I think that could be, like, you could point at the Republicans or like the mainstream Democrats about this, like none of you live in fucking reality.
Right.
And you're so, and like whether it's the Republicans being so hell bent on like, on saving these unborn children, they don't give a fuck about the moms dying in ectopic pregnancies. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, right. You're so fucking focused on this, like, this shit that none of us knows is real, that you're willing to just fuck over endless people that are here because you've been manipulated to think that's okay. And it's like, yeah, that song originally was probably more, I don't know. I think it's written for the same purpose, but of a different time, of like, even with like, you know, part of why I get so pissed off at certain Democrats like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and like these mainstream Democrats is like, they're supposed to be on the working people's side, and they're all just enriching themselves and fucking us over any chance they can get and just moving further to the right. You know, it's and sorry to make everything political, but if you haven't noticed by looking around, everything fucking is.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it's just people that are like so focused on some promise of heaven or some fucking dogma they've been sold on, that they're willing to fuck over living people or like disregard them or dehumanize them, and like that shit fucking slaps.
It's the promise of heaven and the threat of hell. But
Yeah.
so I was actually I usually ask for like a final thought. I don't think there's much more that we could you know, dig up on this one. Or unearth. No, but I think that so this is my last question. I don't have to have you do I don't think we need to do a final thoughts. It's something that we normally do, but I wanted to know for my own personal selfish reasons. So like along with this, what other bodies of work, whether it's, you know, just art wise in general, it could be like, you know, movies or whatever too, but like what do you think it is that kind of like made you who you are now? Like, so like it could be like, you know, other albums or something like that, because I wanted to touch on like your other musical influences. But anyway, taking this collection of songs, what do you think would also make the list of projects that made you who you are today?
There's a long list, but you know, really important one for me would be Hot Water Music, either Caution or A Flight and a Crash. I mean, all their records are great, but those two were like very pivotal for me at a certain age. And then songwriting wise, like, I mean, Townes Van Zandt was like my god for like a long time. And there's a film about him called Be Here to Love Me that like brings me to tears every time I watch it, because he's just such a tragedy. His life is just so, it's just so tragic. And me in my early to mid 20s, it was like I really identified with it a lot. And me now, I wonder if I rewatched it, if I'd be kind of annoyed with him, because he had all the talent in the world, but he was too busy getting fucked up, and like that he drank himself to death, you know? Right. So, you know, but his talking about someone who could write a fucking song, that's amazing. He's amazing. John Prine, you know, Dolly Parton doesn't need my plug, but she's just an amazing human being that's like immensely talented and been doing, and like I grew up and she was like the butt of the joke. Like people would make a Dolly Parton joke because of like her big boobs or whatnot. And then I got older and I'm like, holy shit, Dolly Parton's fucking amazing. Like one of the coolest people that's ever lived.
Yeah, and she has giant boobs.
Yeah, which are some of the coolest things that are on planet Earth. So
I'm all for it, dude. She can sing. She got massive cans. I'm all for it. You can see I'm drinking this Liquid Death sparkling water. This is a bigger can. I'm all about bigger cans. I like it.
I got a regular size can. All cans are valid.
I like it too. I like the shape of it. So that kind of concludes our little episode. Me and Charles Ellsworth. It feels really good to be back talking to somebody. And like, I mean, I don't know if you can tell, I really enjoy doing interviews. I really love that I can do, like, I write these little quippy games or try to like sneak in jokes here and there where I can. But it is very helpful when I have somebody who's very receptive to what I'm doing. There's nothing worse than like talking to a fucking brick wall or a stop sign. But every single week on this little program, we like to do what's called the top 3. So it can be anything that you're into at the moment, whether that be, you know, it can be genres of pornography. It could be kinks, fetishes. It could be music, movies, books, what have you, scandals. It could be, I've heard people do flavors of ice cream. So what would be your top 3 right now, Charles Ellsworth, 2024. What's today? July 18th. What is your top three?
My top three, in no particular order. I'm going to say I've been really enjoying the YouTube channel ContraPoints a lot lately. I somehow watched their like 2.5 hour video about Twilight and human sexuality, and I've never seen a Twilight movie and I've never read a Twilight book, and that 2.5 hour video was fucking very interesting, and everything else of theirs I've watched is great. So ContraPoints, that's one. Another thing is, I'm going to mention this because I meant to mention it in the earlier part, but I didn't. The Savage Detectives is one of my favorite books of all time, and it's probably the biggest reason I'm still traveling around playing music in dive bars and not working some corporate job, because that's what that book's kind of about. And my other favorite thing, I mean, my dog Banjo and my girlfriend are great, but I think mint chocolate chip ice cream also is fucking awesome. Yeah, we'll go with that.
I like it. That's really good. All right. Well, thank you for participating in another. This is going to be, what would this be? Season 2, episode 8 of Visceral Musings. This was actually something that I was really looking forward to, something that I've wanted to do for a long time to have you on. So thank you for doing this with me, dude. I appreciate it.
This was so fun.
I get to eat out another one of your afternoons, so that means a lot to me. What are your socials? It's Charles.Smellsworth, right?
Yeah, Instagram, Charles.Smellsworth. That's the main one I use, but like Facebook, just Charles Ellsworth. My phone number is... No, I'm just kidding.
Dox yourself?
Yeah. My youtube.com/Charles Ellsworth. Patreon, patreon.com/Charles Ellsworth. That's where... I'm trying to make Patreon where I'm going to just start putting like everything I do out, and there's going to be a free tier, and I'm going to be like putting out a lot of stuff regularly while I figure out what to do with my next record. So I'm going to be putting like new songs on there every month starting next month. So if you want to check out my Patreon, there's a free tier that you can sign up for, and you'll see when these things come out. So
I love it. All right, awesome. Be sure to follow me on my personal Instagram, which is @thatrollerpig. Follow this podcast on Instagram @VisceralMusingsPod, as well as on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube and listen to this shit for free. There's no reason to pay for it. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this, dude. It's been a blast, and I can't wait to.
Thank you.
I'm sure we will have other opportunities. Next time you're in the Valley, I'll have you come over to my apartment. We'll sit and bang one out, and then we'll do.
I would love.
Then we'll do a podcast.
Dude, I can't wait to bang one out and then do a podcast after.
Yeah, and might I just add, you totally ate on this episode and left no crumbs. So thank you very much. Thank you for your Riz and for your got. I appreciate it.
Yeah, what's your ASL?
Oh yeah, age, sex, location. I remember this shit. Alrighty, dog.
Sorry.
I'll let you get back to your afternoon. So yeah, once again, thanks, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. This was really fun. Have a good night, man.
You too.